Three, two, one. Welcome to Real Hospitality Live. I am very excited to welcome my guest, Carell Grass, 2.5 decade experienced world's business franchise expert. I've been so excited about this for weeks. How are you, Carell?
I'm doing well, Jason, and thank you for that build-up. I don't know if I can live up to that.
It's been building up all morning.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
I'm really excited to talk to you about business growth, franchising. I know previous to our getting on here today, we could have talked for hours and hours, and it was all I could do to say, let's just save it for the show.
Right, yep.
Now, you're working with companies out of Dubai. I mean, you have a background in working with big companies, Papa Murphy's, Pop Bar. Can you tell us about what you're doing now? And I'd love to get on a conversation with you about franchising and business growth.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So a little background. You're right. Papa Murphy's, Pop Bar, those are some of the organizations that I've been with and have helped them grow or scale or open more units, whatever the goal was there from a growth standpoint. Over the last probably 7 to 10 years, it seems like 100, 150, but I've really been focusing on startups, folks who are out there who have proof of concept. And proof of concept can be one location that's doing extremely well, or that's unique in its area, or really has carved out a specific place within the marketplace. Or it could be someone who has 3 units and different demographics across a trade area, and they're really ready to scale and grow, and whatever that looks like, either through franchising, licensing, joint ventures, independent operators, all of those types of things that help them get to where they want to go with their concept and with their business. So that's really what I've been focusing on the last several years, and that's really for me where all the excitement is. That's where the energy is. That's where all of the potential lies. And so it's a lot of fun to be in that arena right now.
It's always fun to be there when you're doing the countdown to launch and for the expansion. Everybody gets excited for opening day and everything leading up to it. It's an adrenaline rush.
That's exactly right. The part about it that everyone forgets on that day, which is a good thing, is that all the work that you had to do to get to that point, which is why you work so hard, put in all those hours and set up all those systems so that that launch day, as that old commercial says, you only get one chance to make a first impression, and you want to be sure you're putting your best foot forward.
Sure, absolutely. Now, I do want to get into the obvious questions about how to prepare and franchising questions, but I don't want to forget to touch on the company that you're currently working with out of Dubai. Mm-hmm. It's My Six Pack.
That's correct. Yeah, My Six Pack is a really unique company, and in that venue of launch and startup, they're a company out of Dubai in the UAE. They've been there about 3 years, and really they started up really was their objective. What they really wanted to provide meal plans for folks at or below the cost it would for them to go out and purchase and put the meals together themselves. So not only are you saving time, money, effort, energy in doing all the shopping, preparing all the meals, they have a program whereby you can build the menu based on what you're trying to achieve, the goals you're trying to achieve, right? Whether that's looking at your calories, whether that's looking at a specific type of diet, paleo, gluten-free, vegan, whatever is driving that dieting decision or that meal plan decision. They have the ability to tailor and structure all of that so that it's hitting all of those metrics that you specifically are looking for, tailored to the goals that you're trying to achieve.
Fantastic. So you are working with this company out of the UAE to come into the US?
That's correct. Yeah. So really what we're looking for is JV partners in a couple of key markets, specifically New York and Miami right now. So really what we're looking for is, because what they have is really a high margin turnkey solution to take advantage of operators who are in the space, fresh, fresh, healthy foods, who have kitchens, who are caterers, or who are folks who are already operating in this space, to come in and joint venture and partner with My Six Pack and provide that back end service for those clients that they have, and specifically those two those two trade areas right now, both Miami and New York.
Fantastic. Now, I I think that's amazing that that you're doing international business and bringing companies into North America. I know we've even discussed bringing them to Vancouver.
Yeah.
Um, Now, I want to move on into start talking about franchising, because I can't wait to pick your brain on this. I mean, it is a little bit of my wheelhouse, but it's way more your wheelhouse.
No worries, no worries. Yeah, franchising is there's a lot of landmines. There's a lot of landmines that are out there. If you know the route, it's a really good route to get you through the minefield, and it can be very lucrative. And there's a lot of folks out there who are very good at it and have enjoyed a lot of success, and they've really scaled their brands really quickly. Myself, I've scaled a couple of brands on going the franchising route. Very quickly. We opened up 18, 19 stores in less than 2 years, all across the country, with basically a brand new brand going through the franchising route. But very much like we talked about with grand opening days, it's all of that pre-work and all of that brain damage that you put in ahead of time to make sure that you're set up. So when you do go the franchising route, you're both well protected for both the franchisee and the franchisor perspective.
Now, if there's a company or people who are listening today, and they are looking at expanding their, one store, two store, three store business, what are some advice and some tried and true methods and tips, and maybe some pitfalls that you can mention that they can watch for?
Sure, absolutely. So when you're looking to grow, and again, franchising is really what everyone's familiar with. It's the model everyone knows, and everyone understands basically what franchising is. That being said, there's a couple of other models that may make sense depending upon where they are in their evolution, what category that they're in, whether it's QSR, fast casual, wherever they may be. Licensing, as I mentioned earlier, that's another way that is available out there that folks kind of don't look at necessarily when they're looking to scale. So that's whether you franchise or license. Those are really two good avenues that I would have folks explore initially. The second thing I would say is make sure that you're buttoned up both operationally and economically. And what I mean by that is, operationally, you have all of the things that make your business replicable. So can I take everything that you're doing in your location there at the corner of Spruce and Goose, and can I move that all the way across the country to Maine and still be as successful, because I have all of those systems and methods that I can just pick up and bring over there. So that's a key one right there, having that blocking and tackling done really well, so that you can take that and move it. The next piece is economically, and in economics, the economic bucket, I'll try to throw in things like supply chain. So if you're dealing with a local vendor that you specifically get your clams from, now is that clam vendor going to be able to go to Arizona if that's where you're going to grow, right? So it's the economic bucket, which is the supply chain piece, because that's also a critical part of maintaining your brand identity. So if you have things that are core elements into what you do, you want to make sure that you're able to transfer those core elements across the country. If you're more of a commodity-based concept where you can interchange your broadliner, your distributor, you could go to Sigma or US Foods or whatever the case may be, then it's not necessarily as critical. So those are some of the initial things you want to look at. Take a look at your business holistically and say, okay, is our point of sale system at a place where we would be able to scale that and would have enterprise management ability, so that we could look across all of our wide platform of locations and be able to look at sales and discounts and coupons and food costs, and be able to provide direction and help for those licensees or franchisees. A lot of times what you find with startups or independents, that critical piece, that point of sale system, whether you use, Toast or Revel or pick a fruit or a color or a flower POS system that's out there right now, you need to have the ability to have it grow with your company and where you want to take your company. If you only want to take it to 10 units, then Squirrel or Toast or Clover may work for you.
Right.
But if you really want to grow and scale it into a regional or a super regional or a national brand, you may need a little more horsepower under the hood.
Absolutely. Now, you did mention the difference between licensing and franchising, and I think people get enamored sometimes or swept up with the idea of becoming a franchisor when maybe licensing is the way to go.
That's exactly right. And because franchising, and I know you've experienced it there, and we have it here in the U.S. It's very, it's regulated by the FTC, so it's very, it's contractual. You have to have an FDD or franchise disclosure document. There are steps that you have to go through as a legal part of having someone come on board and be a franchisee. As a franchisor, you have responsibilities to them. And so it's very much a reined in with a lot of guardrails to make sure everyone is operating the way they should, for a lot of other reasons, because in its infancy, there were a lot of folks taking advantage of the system. With licensing, it's a little more, I won't say lax, but it's a little more open. You're able to structure the relationship a little differently. The expectation level on both parties is a little bit lower. So you don't necessarily have all of the responsibilities as a licensor that you would have to a licensee. Maybe one of the best examples of that is when you see folks who have maybe a brand name on the outside of the building, but they're operating it differently inside because they've licensed the ability to use that name or that trademark, and they may not necessarily be the same from location to location. So you may go into one location, maybe the decor is a little different, or maybe the uniforms are a little different, or maybe even the menu has got some things on it that are specific to that region. You go to another licensed brand and you'll see some subtle differences there as well. So that gives you a little bit more leeway in that. With a franchise, you're not going to see that as much. You're going to see that sameness all across whatever their footprint may be.
Right. And royalty structure is a completely different animal too, right?
Royalty structure is completely different. So in a franchise world, you're looking at a percentage of sales, and usually there's a contribution to an advertising and development fund, which normally would drive what they call the national advertising or the brand advertising, if you will. That also helps individual franchisees with their marketing. In addition to that, the individual franchisees would want to do their own what is called local store marketing. So a percentage of their sales they'd want to put that aside for that. But generally the franchising is a 5 to 6% of your gross sales, and your advertising and development is usually 1 to 2%, sometimes high as 3% into the advertising and development fund. In the licensing world, it's a little different. You normally, in franchising, you're also paying an initial fee to become part of that franchise. That gets you entree into the systems and the methods, the supply chain, the purchasing power of that
Right.
franchise. In the licensing world, you have that fee. Normally there's an upfront fee. Sometimes it's less, other times it's equal, but sometimes it's a little bit less in the licensing world. And then you normally pay what's called a subscription fee. Sometimes it's called a royalty amount. That also is normally can be a fixed amount as opposed to a percentage. Because you don't have that oversight from a franchisor, as we talked about earlier with point of sale systems. So sometimes that'll be a fixed amount, a fixed dollar amount, and then you don't necessarily have a marketing fee that goes in. Again, licensing can be set up where you have a smaller contribution into a marketing fund or no contribution into a marketing fund. And the marketing is really reliant upon that local operator as a licensee to really drive that message for their licensee.
Right. Now, when we're talking about somebody who is wanting to expand their brand, how can we kind of weed out, shiny web pages and et cetera, and the in the call center and really get in touch with somebody like you, who's got that background and real growth concept strategies? What are some of the things we can look for there?
Well, when you're looking for first of all, having a consultant or having a mentor or someone to kind of guide you down that path through the landmines is really critical. It's been my experience that the folks who understand that and who really embrace that, generally speaking, will shorten the curve on getting up to where they want to go. So number one, I would suggest that if anyone's thinking about doing that, they absolutely find someone to assist them with that. And you're absolutely right. You can Google and there's 1,000 websites out there and they all look slick and they look really good and they spend a lot of money on the marketing side of it. It really comes down to trust and forming a relationship. A lot of my engagements are multi-year engagements that I have with clients. So several of my engagements are 3, 4, 5-year engagements where I'm working with them right on through that process up until they decide that, you know what, I think we've got it now. We're good.
Right.
And for me, that is the most fulfilling, and that's really where I want to work with folks. I really want to establish that relationship to ensure that they're successful going forward, because that's both beneficial to them and beneficial to me. When you're trying to vet someone to find out if they're a good partner for you or they can help you on the path, a couple of key questions are vital. The first one you want to do is a couple of things. First of all, you're looking for authenticity. And what I mean by that is it's okay to say you don't know. It's okay for that person who's leading you to say, I don't have all the answers.
Right.
I have a lot and I've done a lot, but I may not necessarily have the specific answer for that situation, but they probably have a resource that they can point you in or someone they can go to help them with that. I like to say I'm a very broad generalist with a deep knowledge base. So an example of that would be, I'm not a franchise broker. Now, I have sold franchises and I can sell franchises and I'll put my record up against anyone's, but that doesn't mean that I'm a franchise broker.
Right.
So that practical experience, that real world experience, makes a difference. Having someone that you can speak with that can anticipate what is going to happen. So when you're talking with someone and they're trying to guide you, or you're feeling like you're vetting them as a potential consultant or a mentor for you, can they kind of give you that both short-term, but also long-term vision of, here are the things that are going to happen over the next 60, 90, 120 days in the business as we look to make these changes, both the things that you personally as an owner will go through and other things that the business will go through, and be ready for these things, because here's how it's going to affect you emotionally and here's how it'll affect you from a business standpoint. So again, that really authenticity, that ability to gauge someone's real world practical experience. It's another thing when someone talks to you about it and they read it in a book, or they may have saw someone else do it. It's another thing when that individual has had to make payroll or pay rent or figure out how they're going to fix the fryer, or we're 3 people short for dinner and what do we do? So those are all real world practical solutions that you're looking for, and those are the questions that you want to vet out when you're looking for someone to help you.
Well, that was the thing that I was excited to talk to you about as well, having had a background in being an operator and whatnot also. So I knew that you'd have that foundation. Now, I do have a question about, I know we're hospitality guys and we talk restaurant speak, but if somebody's looking to franchise or license out their business for, maybe they're consultants, maybe it's a cleaning business, maybe they have another product. What advice might you have for somebody that's not in the hospitality industry, or is that your wheelhouse?
Hospitality is where I've spent the better part of my career, but because of the nature of what I do, it tends to bleed over a little bit into other spaces. So yeah, so the big thing is there when if you have you're not in the hospitality world, let's say, and you have a product or you have something you want to license or whatever the case may be, the biggest part of that is understanding the relationship and the nature of the licensing relationship you're trying to establish. And that really comes down to setting up contractual relationships with folks that you're going to do. So if you have a product and you have a you've got the best new widget or whatever it is, and you've got someone who's coming to you and say, I love this product. I need you to manufacture a lot of them, and you want to license to them. It's really all about structuring the contract, structuring the deals, structuring the expectations so that everyone is clear on what they want out of it and what they're going into it with. The last thing you want to do is either give up intellectual property or any other proprietary information that could leak out and then put you in a bad situation where you no longer have control of what you brought to the relationship. So the biggest part of that is, again, structuring it properly, setting up your non-disclosure agreements, setting up the parameters of what that relationship will look like contractually, so that, again, everyone understands the lane that they're supposed to be in as you move forward.
Well, thank you so much for clarifying lots of different things that I'm sure that lots of people have questions about. I know that you're in Denver today,
right?
And thanks for taking your time and spending it with us. We have been just growing this like crazy. This is going to be seen all over North America and around the world. And it's just so great to have had some time with you. And thank you so much. We are going to put your contact information, obviously, on the post-edited version of this live call. And it's just wonderful to have had some time to spend to pick your brain.
Absolutely. Well, listen, this has been great. And again, because there are so many restaurant concepts out there who are growing and who want to expand their business, it's critical, as I said earlier, that you find someone that you can help you navigate through those waters. There's a lot of obstacles out there, a lot of landmines, a lot of things out there that can really kind of put you off course and really derail you from your timeline. Because I think a lot of folks go into this, with a timeline in their head of how long they think it should take them to get where they want to go, and usually that timeline becomes extended for a lot of other reasons. So having someone that can help you keep you on budget, keep you on timeline, understanding and anticipate some of those unknowns is critical to really helping you get to where you want to go.
Well, if there's anything else you wanted to add to this, I certainly welcome your advice or your input.
Well, no, really, the only thing I would say, again, when it comes to growth and whether it's the My Six Pack growth that we're looking for in Miami with the meal plans and those types of things, or Miami or New York or Vancouver, where I think we're going to do some great things there. Whether it's that program that folks have some interest in, or again, if there's someone looking to scale their business, or just have questions. A lot of times what I find is that, the restaurant business, as you know, Jason, it's not a 9-to-5 business. And so what you find, especially in the folks that I work with, is that a lot of times these, questions that needed to be asked are literally just, quick text message questions. Hey, I'm in this situation. What do you think about this? And you can get someone an answer right away, either through phone call or text. And it really helps them move the ball down the field, as opposed to, oh, I've got to postpone this meeting, or I don't know the answer to that question, and we'll have to delay this till tomorrow when I can find out. So accessibility, to revisit one of the things you mentioned earlier, accessibility to someone who's going to help you is also a key metric when you're vetting out someone, along with those other metrics as well. So having the accessibility where someone can answer your question right away, whether it's 7 a.m. because you're, getting ready for breakfast, or it's, you're closing at 9 o'clock at night, or it's 7 a.m. when the GC is on site and they've got a question about the grease trap. All of those things are the things that come up, and having access to someone who can help you with that is invaluable.
Well, absolutely, I couldn't agree more. It's great to be able to have access so that you can ask those questions in the moment, which is always a fast-moving train when you're when you're trying to get things open.
That's exactly right.
Again, I'm going to thank my guest, Carell Grass from Growth Concept Partners out of Denver, Colorado today. thank you again for all of your advice and your input. Carell can be found on LinkedIn and also on his website at growthconceptpartners.com. Thanks again, Carell, and it was absolutely wonderful having you on.
My pleasure, Jason. Look forward to talking to you again soon.
All right, take care.